and you got to get some time on the radio with Avery Munson, and who's here and returning resident of Guam.
Yes,
if it works out like that. Welcome to the studios of K57, by the way.
Well, thank you,
and thank you, Mitch, for turning me on to the guy. And we'll both of us say hello. How are you? To Annette Donner, who is listening online.
Absolutely, she's in Israel. She just left the island to go to Israel for her faith, and I guess it's a lifelong goal of hers to go to Israel.
Good for and Annette. We were sorry to see you go, but we connect up on Facebook often enough, and I've seen some pictures of her traipsing around Israel. Yeah, looks like real hard missionary work you're up to there, Annette. But give us a jingle the next time you're close to a phone and you've got some extra long distance though, and get us caught up to date on what it is that you have been up to after the adventures working with the Navy. So I want you to go backwards here and tell me about the start of your diving life and how it leads to what you're doing now.
Sure. We grew up in Louisiana. My mother and father took us on a trip to the Pacific. My father was in World War II, stationed on Bora Bora in Samoa.
Wow.
So we went to Bora Bora in Samoa, and it was my mother and father were going, "Hey, this is nice." My mother said, "Let's move somewhere."
Mm-hmm.
And my father made the mistake of saying, "Hey, you find me a job, I'll sell my business, sell the house, and off we go." Never been to Guam. Mm-hmm. Off we go with 3 kids. Took us out of school. My father was a civil engineer. Was hired by government of Guam.
Yeah.
We moved to Liguan Terrace, and I went to Simon Sanchez Junior High for the first very semester that it started. When we arrived on island, the Caribbean, the cruise ship, came into the harbor in 1974 and broke up. It was being towed to a 750-foot cruise ship being towed to Taiwan for scrap.
How about that?
And in a typhoon, the tugboat had to cut it loose, and of all the places for it to go, it drifted into the breakwater, caught the edge of the breakwater, and sank and blocked most of the channels.
Oh, the folks that still tell that story.
Yeah, and it had to be removed. So, excuse me. So, right at that point, I mean, the moment we arrived on Guam, we wanted to be Jacques Cousteau, right, with Clearwater and the beauty and the history and everything going on. And, of course, here's this big shipwreck. So we go down to Coral Reef Marine Center where Wayne Baumick and Annette and Mitch were, sign up for scuba. They're diving on the Caribbean before it was held off.
Isn't that amazing?
Before it was off limits. It was just like a great event for I was 13, you know. It was just a lot of wonderful energy, right?
You know, you're touching people's just the discussion of the boat and the breakwater and Coral Reef Marine Center. You're bringing back some memories for a lot of people. That was back around that time. The only place on Guam to get a decent CB radio was over at Coral Reef Marine Center.
Sure.
Back in the old days, they'd do installation for if you wanted to, and the boats and the diving and everything that they did between there and boy, this predates MDA. I think the only other place that you could get any kind of scuba lessons was down at the corner of this street here out Fort Mariana's Divers.
That's right.
Scotty Campbell's place. So some great memories that you're bringing up. How old were you at the time?
I was 13.
About 30. Okay, old enough to get a C card.
Yeah, and my brother was here, and he was 15. He became my partner, of course, while we were here.
Big brother, little brother?
Big brother.
Okay, because that's back in the old days, steel tanks.
That's right.
And there's no way a 13-year-old's going to carry around a steel tank.
Well, I had to struggle. My eldest sister was 18, 19, and she learned, and we tooled around in an old Jeep and went diving every chance we could get. We learned from Mitch and Annette and dived with them quite a bit, and they took us in on their secret spots and became good friends with them. And meantime, I went to Simon Sanchez, and I just moved on the island, and the family, we moved to another government house in Manilao.
Yeah.
So I had no friends, really, except for my siblings, which is one reason we're real close today.
Of course.
One of the reasons we came back to Guam was to spread my mother and father's ashes, which we did at Retidian Point, which wasn't open when we were here. And it was absolutely gorgeous, and we were thrilled to go up there. So
I'm not nuts about the reason to come back out here, but I'm so glad that you're able to do that, and this is the place where they wanted to spend the rest of eternity.
Yeah, but it was nothing. It's a great reason. We spread enough their ashes and had enough of our own family, mourning period. this was great. This was the pure joy to set him free on the reef there. And then yesterday I had the honor of going to Iwo Jima for the commemoration.
I'd heard that was among the things that you were. How'd you manage to land a spot in that airplane? They don't hand them out.
No, they don't. I'm not going to give up my secrets, but
off the air, off the air. I haven't done that, and I know a few people that have put those kinds of trips together.
Oh, it was an incredible experience. So this whole return to the Pacific has been wonderful.
Now you said your dad was in the Second World War. Did he spend any time at Iwo Jima at all?
No. His
lucky man then.
Yes, his brother fought on Saipan, Tarawa, and Guadalcanal, and we had visited those places when we went to see where my father was in Bora Bora. So we went to War Island. So when we moved to Guam, and we went to Saipan, and for a 13-year-old kid, it was as a history buff. Oh, it was a paradise. So we tromped around in the jungles and the woods.
Yeah.
We went to Saipan, and my parents, who were over 50 and felt they were too old to do anything, snorkeled and saw the Japanese airplane, and got so excited that they took lessons from Mitch and that too. And my mother had cancer surgery and had no muscles in her chest because they'd been removed. And Mitch and Annette taught her to dive and took her on the Tokai Maru. We took her to Truck Lagoon. So this whole experience on Guam was absolutely fantastic.
Why did you guys leave?
I don't know.
It sounds like you left and then spent the rest of your life trying to get back to the Pacific.
Exactly. I don't know. Position came up back in Louisiana, and maybe my father was worried about retirement years or whatever, but I can't believe it. But who knows?
Well, you're back home now.
Yeah.
You're back home now. And Mitch said you want to talk to this guy. He's a for-real treasure diver.
Treasure finder.
Treasure finder. I'm sorry. So you've actually, because there are a lot of guys that will go looking but never find it. You found the stuff.
Yes. Well, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I will tell you that there was another person on Guam that was a big influence, even though I didn't know her well and only had her for a short time, and that was Anita Sokola. That's now Judge. Absolutely.
Yes.
I was in her Exploring Guam class, and I was so fired up about Guam that she asked me to represent Simon Sanchez at the Chamorro Festival. So I'm here with a Guamanian girl, Maria Crisostomo, in a Guamanian dress, and I'm a haole. Just been on Guam for 6 months, and I'm representing Simon Sanchez. And then later I had an altercation. Well, not an altercation, but a dispute with the teacher over a grade. And I didn't want to tell my parents because they would get
back in the day. Yeah.
So
it's trouble.
I told Miss Sokola, and while she sorted it out, she said, "I'll take care of it," and she did. And she was quite an influence because I didn't have a lot of that. I mean, I had my parents, right, but Mitch and Annette, and then Judge Sokola. So it was a great experience. We went back to Louisiana. I wanted to dive. Started researching shipwrecks in the Gulf of Mexico, which had a lot of World War II activity and a lot of history from Spanish and steamships. And when at Coral Reef, when Mitch and Annette were making the film for the Corps of Engineers about the salvage of the ship, Annette had put all the plans of the ship on the wall, and I was just mesmerized by these big plans of the ship. And then we saw it being salvaged and brought up, so that was really hooked me. We got back to the U.S. I researched. A friend of mine there had bought a sailboat at auction that had been importing drugs into Louisiana. He'd run aground. So we always told the Coast Guard when they would board us, "Hey, don't worry about the seeds in the bottom. That came with the boat."
That's not. We didn't put that there, and we're not gonna sell it, honest.
No. That's right.
I'm glad that you got an opportunity to say thank you after all these years to Judge Sokola. She's been a great influence on a number of people's lives. I think there's more than one or two women who are in the legal profession now as a result of maybe a chat with her or a conversation with her once upon a time.
Then I found a picture of us, of the three of us, the two reps and Judge Sokola at the fair, and I'm going to send that to her when I get home. But I got with my friend and the sailboat and some other friends, and I worked oil field on a drilling rig, and where I worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 28 days on.
This is all career diver stuff we're talking about.
No. This is
you weren't one of the diver guys on the oil.
No. I worked on the drilling rig on top.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to dive for a living. That was too much work.
You're spoiled. That's what happens to the blue water divers, right? That's what happens. You get out here and you're in water that is up on Guam. What is it, 92 degrees or something like that? And you can see from here to 100 miles away. And then unfortunately, you got to go dive in California or the Gulf Coast someplace, and you can't see anything, and the water's freezing. And
well, the surface of the Gulf of Mexico can be like Guam, but when you get down to the bottom, it turns into a muck. And so if you get too deep, you can't see anything. So my mother told me about these World War II attacks by submarines in the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, I didn't believe it, so I started researching. By this time, I was at LSU, skipping class and not studying because I was in the library researching.
Yeah.
Great. So I was on the 5-year program.
So what have you found?
Gary had the boat. His wife Renee and I and friend Craig went out, and in 1991, we found the wreck of the SS New York, which was I had researched, and then Gary and I had plotted and found shrimp places, and places where shrimpers would hang their nets as they drag them on the bottom, places where people would fish. So we plotted out all these locations, and we went out and we found what was obviously an old shipwreck sticking out of the sand, the engine, and some of the machinery. So we tried over the next 14 years to dig it up in various methods, and we brought in people that were good partners, and we brought in people that were not so good partners.
Sure, like any other business.
And the negativity, what we had to get rid of, so we'd find some other partners, and we'd get thrilled any time of our friends that worked in the oil field would get laid off because of downturns in the oil field, so all of a sudden we had a new crew member. So in 2007, I believe, we went out for a 12-day trip. We uncovered about, I don't know, I'd say about 700,000 worth of U.S. and foreign gold coins. From the oldest foreign gold coin was 1776 Italian. The oldest silver coin was 1721 Spanish, and the newest U.S. coins were 1846. The wreck went down in 1846. What turned out to be so significant about this wreck is that it had coins from the New Orleans Mint, the Charlotte Mint, and the Dahlonega, Georgia Mint. The first gold rush in the United States was in the Piedmont. So those coins are extremely rare. So
it's incredible numismatic value.
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah. So, never mind bullion.
And historical, too, because it showed a lot of the economics of the period. So there were academics that were interested in this, which later came into our group. So we took the coins, put them in the bank box. We quit our jobs. No, we didn't quit. We filed a claim in federal court.
You have to.
And through my research, I showed it was a privately owned ship. It was private then, it's private now, but who owns it? Well, I showed that the captain and owner died of yellow fever in New Orleans and had no heirs, and it was uninsured, so there are no claimants. So we went in front of Judge Melanson in the Fifth Circuit in Lafayette. He said, "What's it like?" And I said, "It's like pieces of sunshine on a black carpet."
Yeah,
because that's how they look. We dig it up.
But there's so much, and there's a lot left in the discussion. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time for it. I'm moving into the top of the hour. I've got to make a phone call real quick to a guy that is going to tell me about movies, and then we'll return with the time that we've got left, and maybe a little bit of technique on treasure finding, if you don't mind. 9 away from 9 o'clock in the morning on NEWSTALK K57. Bojo from the Micronesia Mall and Agana Stadium Theater's on the line with us this morning. Big movie breaking tonight, right?
Yes, good movies coming up, Ray, and thank